Oh my goodness. So excited to be here today. So excited to welcome you all into this space. Yes, Isis, you're totally right. How could you not dance to this amazing music? I'm very excited to introduce Leila today to run the session, This Place Works, the Power of Place-Based Funding for Racial Repair. My name is Kelsey Barowich. I work with Philanthropy Together as the program and campaign manager. I also hold our racial equity community of practice, which that's how we met Leila. And I have to say, y'all, you are really in for a treat. I hope you're ready to write, to reflect, to pop in the chat with all of your thoughts. It's really going to be an amazing one. Make sure you stick around to give your feedback after the session. And welcome, welcome, welcome to day 2 of We Give Summit. And welcome, welcome, welcome to the amazing Leila.
What an introduction. Thank you so much, Kelsey. And thank you all so much for being here. This is such an honor and true pleasure of mine. I'm really excited to dive deep with you today, as deep as we can go in 50 minutes. Before we start, I am, LOL the paparazzi, I'm going to just share my screen. So bear with me, give me a moment while I do that and get us set up. Thank you. And as folks are coming in, please feel free to come off camera. We probably won't have a lot of time today to hear everyone's voice, although we are going to do our best to engage with each other. But yeah, just feel free so I can see your lovely faces. Thanks, and also take care of yourself. You all have been listening to lots of folks, I'm sure. We're here, the power of place-based funding in racial repair. As Kelsey said, I'm Leila. I also go by Leila. And I want to get a sense from folks why you're here in the first place. So we're going to start with some chat engagement. If you already have a sense of place-based giving, you understand what a place-based approach is, and you're already maybe moving money to a specific place, could you just put a $ in the chat, just like that? Okay, Isis and Sarah, and yes, 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 okay. A few people, great, awesome. Okay, and if, perfect, thanks, Sandy, awesome. Y'all are, Lisa, y'all already you're jumping ahead. Okay, let's next prompt. If you have no idea what I mean when I even say place, could you just put a question mark in the chat? Question mark, smiley face. Excellent. Yeah, okay. Good. And then if you feel like you fall somewhere in the middle or you just want to show some excitement, put an exclamation point. Okay, multiple exclamation points. Yes, 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 I'm here for it. Awesome. Okay, well, the takeaway here is that we're all coming with various levels of understanding, maybe experience about this topic. And I just hope that by the very end, everyone will be able to take away something valuable from the session. I feel like we will be able to do that. I'm going to set the tone by just grounding us in place, especially for the folks who maybe put a question mark in the chat. And I want to start by just giving you a portrait of the place that I'm based in currently, which is San Ysidro, California. San Ysidro, California is a place that's been cared for by Kumeyaay people since time immemorial. It has also been the subject of settler colonialism for hundreds of years. And today it's the site of major US imperialism in the military industrial complex. It has the fourth busiest land border crossing in the world on planet Earth. And it carries the sounds, the smells, the pollution of the 70,000 cars that cross every day. Folks who are going to make a living, to visit family, etc. San Ysidro is also the land of cempasúchil, or marigold flowers, that are grown by the thousands and harvested for Dia de los Muertos every year. It's home to the Tijuana River estuary, an important ecological site that's 3 times the size of Central Park. And it's home to a really thriving and vibrant cross-border art scene that refuses to be contained on either side of the border. And on any given day in San Ysidro, you can hear the sounds of banda music and barking dogs mingling with the smell of carne asada. Always want to eat. So I share this portrait of San Ysidro with you all, or this map, to remind us that one, acknowledgement is a living practice, right? It's about reflection, and it's about understanding where harm has been done, where it currently lives. And it's also about recognizing where there is resilience and where there is joy and where there is care. So I wanted to share this portrait with you to demonstrate all of that. And because we're going to be talking about place today, that's why we're here, right? And you all are going to be doing a similar exercise shortly. Come visit me in San Ysidro. I would love that. Awesome. So what are we here to do today? What are we going to do? Give me a moment while I figure out how to move my slides. Awesome. We're going to start by taking stock of place, right? Really thinking about place that is meaningful to us. And we're going to be making connections between how race and place are connected. This is the We Give Summit after all. So we're going to be imagining how to move money while we're thinking about place and race, and have those lenses in mind. What we're not going to be able to do today is get deep on the how, right? I'm going to preview essentially some skills that are needed for this kind of work. But this isn't a training or capacity building exercise on how to do all of that, right? That's part 2, 3, and beyond. And knowing that we're not going to have the time to workshop your ideas, although I really want to hear all of them. And I think what we're going to try to do our best in is just engage in the chat, because I think we're going to have some limited time for folks to speak. So just know I really want to know what you all are thinking, and we can do our best to engage the chat and have a part 2 for another time. Okay, why am I even talking to you about place today? It has to do with these maps. These maps show where my family is from, and my ancestors are from places that have changed really significantly over 500 years. In my family, we were colonizers, we were settlers, and we were also slaves. And from a very early age, I struggled to reconcile all of those roles, and how my body was a manifestation of both colonizer and colonized identities. So I turned to maps because they gave me a sort of visual language to understand and point to who I was when I was called to explain that, or just to understand that for myself. One thing I've always loved about maps is that they were always changing, It's one of the things I've loved about them and also gave me a lot to consider and question, right? The constant change that happens in a place, but the beauty of maps being able to visualize the passage of time and history all in one place. Ultimately, maps helped me better understand who I was, and they were an entry point for my understanding of where I belonged. My current understanding of place can be visualized in this very simple diagram. Oops, forgive me. Very simple Venn diagram where the natural and built environment interact with people and systems. So what does that really mean? Place is not just about a location. It's not just about coordinates. It's because it's not simply, we don't define a place just by the buildings that are there or just by the beauty of the landscape. It's about the meaning of the buildings or the landscape and the memories and the stories in that place. And so because place is about experience, it reveals so much about us, right? As individuals and also as a society. Place can tell us a whole lot about who belongs and who's being harmed or who was being harmed. And we know that oppression manifests in the built and natural environment because it exists in redlining, it exists in highway expansion, in urban renewal, in pollution and climate injustice, and so much more. And I pull out these examples because we saw how the effects of COVID and still how the effects of COVID are literally mapped onto neighborhoods. And we've heard that zip codes determine life expectancy, as our beloved Angela Glover Blackwell says, right? Address continues to be a proxy for race. And places are like mirrors because they reflect what is in and around them. I want to shout out and thank Kelsey for dropping some links in the chat, or a link in the chat that refers to this article that you see on the slide here. Just to really get a sense, right, for your further reading and understanding to connect the relationship between place and race. That's all fine, and we know these things somewhat intuitively, right? But what does any of this have to do with money? Well, in the US in particular, I know we have folks calling in from all over, and I want to acknowledge that I'm coming with a US-based perspective. In the US, the movement for reparations is growing. It's growing rapidly. And in philanthropy in particular, we're not going to be able to ignore this much longer, right? So between the land back movement, between gifting home ownership, and many other strategies, people are starting to think about how to move money with repair. Thanks, Kelsey, for dropping a couple of links related to these articles that you see for your all's further engagement with this topic. I think what's really important, what I want to drive home here, is that money is a really important and great tool for these reparative adventures, and redistributing wealth in and of itself is not a means to an end, right? So philanthropy's biggest leap moving forward is going to be in shifting the focus from the movement of money being the goal to transformation being the ultimate destination. And that is why I'm really interested in place, because place is a really tangible way for us to be able to access other people, to figure out how we belong and how we connect to each other, right? I wanted to share all of that with you, share more about my personal story, my connection to place, to also invite you all to think about what your authentic connection is to place, and also to consider the relationship between place and the movement for reparations, because I see them as really interconnected and interwoven in a really important place that philanthropy needs to consider next. Okay, so we're not even quite, we're almost maybe halfway there, which is good. We have a little more than half of our time left, and I want to be able now to transition into some of this reflection. And this is where I'm so glad to see y'all in the chat. So thank you so much for engaging there. And thank you, Fran, for sharing what you did about healing. This work ultimately is about healing and transformation, right? And it's super hard in a 50-minute session to have the full experience of what that means. But I really do hope this is just a teaser for you all to really consider how deep this work is. So to that end, we're going to start with some reflection. I didn't say this at the top, but this would be a really great time to grab a notebook, something to write with, something to draw with, maybe, if you are more of an artist. And I'm going to get us into a place where we're just going to meditate a little bit. So I'm going to slow my voice. I feel like I was just talking really fast. Love nuns and nuns. Yes, thank you for dropping that in the chat. Okay. As you all start to get comfy, I'm going to bring up this prompt, and I'm going to guide us through a bit of a place meditation to start, okay? Okay. I hope you're comfortable. I want us to rewind back to what I started with when I was talking about San Isidro, in a place that was really meaningful to me. I want you to go back to that space and start to consider some places that have meaning to you. We're here talking about money today, so also consider a place you can imagine moving resources to, okay? A place that has meaning, place you can imagine moving resources. By place, I mean a geographic location, right? So start to imagine a block, a neighborhood, maybe a region. If it's helpful, you can close your eyes. If it's helpful, you can go off camera. And as you're sifting through your place Rolodex, because several places might be coming up for you right now as you're scanning, try focusing on authenticity. Loaded word, but what do I mean by that? A place you have authentic connection. That could be a place you're from. Could be a place you've worked or visited for several years. Could be where your family or loved ones are from. Take a minute to feel that authentic connection to that place. And maybe you're still sorting through one or two in your brain or in your body. And if you don't have the place yet, that's okay. If you're still searching. If you do have the place in mind, I'm going to ask that you consider some stories in that place. Just meditate and think about that. What's the history of that place? What significant events have taken place there? Are there unknown histories? Maybe try engaging your senses to root yourself in your connection. What do you remember seeing? or hearing or smelling or tasting or touching? And what's sticking out to you? Yeah. And then I'm going to invite you all to just pay attention to what you're feeling. Are you noticing any tension or hurt? Or are the feelings joyful, freeing? Are they making you hungry? Maybe. Thanks for going through that place meditation with me, and helping us shift gears to a reflective space. I would love if folks could just share one word in the chat about how that felt, what feeling came up for them. Interconnected, expanse, longing, grounding, complicated, comfort, humbling, melancholy, nostalgia, reflective nostalgia, serenity, joy, hope, gratefulness and sadness, calmness. Yeah, 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 y'all. Thank you for sharing vulnerably, because surprise, this is, as someone said earlier, I think maybe it was Fran, this is a healing practice. This work is really hard. And it brings up lots of stuff because it requires us to take a real look at what's going on. So notice how you're feeling, move at a pace that works for you, especially as hard things come up, because they undoubtedly will. Great. I'm gonna transition to talking about a tool that I created. Kelsey mentioned that we worked together on Philanthropy Together's racial equity community of practice. And I designed this session with that in mind, and with giving circles in mind, and thinking about folks who might have giving circles who are interested in moving money in a place-based way. Thank you, Kelsey, for dropping this in the chat. This is absolutely something that all of you are free to use and engage with. I will ask if you want to share it beyond here. Please just drop me a note. Let me know how you are engaging it. I would love to know. we're not gonna do the whole thing today. So you'll be able to take it with you. I'll put my email in the chat and everything later, Natalie. But there's plenty of ways to engage further. Essentially, this first page basically just gives us an overview of what this tool, how this tool was created, how you might want to use it. And it's a bunch of facilitated exercises, right? I should have started by acknowledging my partners in this work. I want a major shout out to Kelsey, who brought me on for the racial equity community of practice, and also my colleagues and friends, Joelle Riffle, who supported the design of this work, who did all of the beautiful design work, and Kendra Danowski, who also just helped provide some framing around this as well. This is actually the exercise that we already did together. And just so I can orient everybody, what you'll notice is that on each page, there's a big idea, right? Here, just orienting everybody to the idea that place is where we find belonging. And then you have these larger gray blobs where you have a prompt to think of a place where you have meaningful connection, right? What we just did. And then further instruction for how you might want to engage. This is exactly something to do with the giving circle as an activity. And it's just, it's a wonderful thing to do separately and together, right? If we had more time, the session is normally about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So what we would normally do is have more time to really go through each of these exercises together and have a conversation. And this is something that absolutely can be facilitated with giving circles and other informal and formal groups as you're thinking about moving money with repair in a place-based way. Then just want to shout out that there's sometimes designs, but then there's these hot tips that you'll see in like the corners in the colored blobs that just help you really access parts of the meditation we did, right? Just think about engaging your senses, other ways that you might want to be pushed when you're doing when you're actually completing the prompt. Just wanted to share that to orient you all. And we're going to actually go forward with building off of the meditation that we just did. So we're gonna make a map. That might sound daunting. Don't be scared. The map that I created, that I shared with all of you at first, or the portrait, was a bit of a collage. And in this time that we have together, it'll be super limited. I'm going to play a song for about 3 minutes. Feel free to just draw something on a piece of paper. It might not be so intuitive to do it on your computer at the same time. I'm going to try to do a little bit of that. And yeah, just if drawing feels too difficult, don't sweat it. You can just write, okay? We're gonna get started by just really thinking about the stories of our place and remembering what was important to us, okay? All right, y'all. Thanks for your trust in all of this. I'm gonna play a song to get us started. This is, like I said, this is a super sprint. So I'm grateful for you all. I was starting to just model that you can work directly in this PDF if you'd like. Although it's not so easy unless you have like, super skills or you have some kind of like nice iPad track system. Or pen, one of those fancy ones. But yeah, hopefully that was a good exercise for you all and just got you back into the mode of the place. Ooh, that song is called Our People. I can share all of that with you all too. Great. We're going to move on to the next exercise. If you didn't finish your map like me, that's totally fine. This is something that you all can return to. And in this next exercise, what we're going to do is add some layers, right? Just a FYI, some hard stuff might come up in this. So just take notice of your body and what comes up for you. Basically, this in the next slide or the next prompt, we're being asked to identify where racism is located in the place that you have chosen, right? You can also think about just where several different kinds of harms or oppression may manifest. As you're doing that, also think about where your assets are, where the great things are. But part of the exercise here is figuring out right? If we want to move towards repair, we're going to have to identify where the harm has existed, right? So what you would do, what this prompt is asking you to do, is actually to go back to the map you just created and just maybe create some marks on where those sites of harm are. And then once you have, just think about, normally if you were in a doing this activity with others and you were talking out loud, that would be a great place for further discussion, right? In terms of describing those harms and who has been impacted by them. I would just invite you all now to consider that for yourself and hold that. We're not going to have time to talk about that in depth, but I just want you to think about that as we are moving through the exercise. I am going to play another short song just to get us in the mood of thinking about all of that. And we'll come back in about 3 minutes. Okay. See you soon.
Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution sounds whisper. Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution, it sounds like a whisper. While they're standing in the welfare lines, crying at the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in the unemployment lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion. Don't you know, talking about a revolution, it sounds whisper. Poor people gonna rise up, get their share. Poor people gonna rise up and take what's theirs. Don't you know you better run, 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 run. Oh, I said you better run, 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 run. 'Cause finally the tables are starting to turn, talking about a revolution. Yes, finally the tables are starting to turn, talking about a revolution. Oh no, talking about a revolution. Oh, while they're standing in the welfare lines, crying at the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in the unemployment lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion. Don't you know, talking about a revolution sounds whisper. And finally the tables are starting to turn, talking about a revolution. Yes, finally the tables are starting to turn, talking about a revolution. Oh no, talking about a revolution. Oh no, talking about a revolution. Oh no.
Thanks, Tracy. Ooh, yeah. Too short, I know. Forgive me. Yes. Nina, I'm sorry. I do have the background material and we are just closing. So let's follow up after to sync up. And Kelsey, would you mind dropping the link in the chat one more time for Nina? Okay. Great. Well, the sad news is that we're not doing all the exercises together, but the good news is that hopefully you all have an idea of how to find some authentic connection to place and why it's meaningful for you all. I think we have about 10 minutes left. So with that time, I want to quickly go over what the next, basically what the next steps would be and just walk you through the tool. And then just tie a bow at the end for why, making the case one more time for why a place-based approach can help advance some of your goals and could bring us to where I think we need to go. So we drew our maps, we had fun, or maybe you wrote or you meditated. And then we ended up putting maybe points on our map of where harm has been created or where it lives now. You can see on mine, I marked the border as one of those sites. And then if we were all together, right, in more engaged conversation, that's where we would have some conversation and deeper dialogue around who has been impacted, right? The next steps of this are our money wheel, essentially. And actually, it's basically a high level strategy map for how we can think about moving money. And this is where money comes into the equation. There are 3 wedges here. On the top left portion in the wedge that's numbered 1, what you would do is go back to the map you just created and look at the areas of impact that you were most called to. So actually, maybe you all can do me a favor now, just a quick engagement. For folks who were able to actually draw a map or reflect, when you were marking different sites of harm, if you had 0 places where you marked, could you just put like a 0 in the chat? Or if you marked 1 place, could you just put the number 1 in the chat? And then so on and so forth, right? If it was all over, you could maybe just put everywhere. And I'll just wait to see what numbers come. 7 everywhere.
And there is a question in the chat just for you to know.
Lisa's question. Thank you so much, Kelsey. I'm going to get to that. Great. 7 everywhere. 1, 2. Okay. Yeah. Great. Great. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. There's some variance here, and there could be several reasons for that. And I want to address Lisa. I think it was Lisa's question around what about the places that have become maybe exclusively white at the expense of those who are not. I think what I'm hearing in some of that question, Lisa, is like, how do we acknowledge when there's been major displacement, when there's been major maybe forces of settling in a place, right, or significant change, and what is that? How do we address harm in that place? That's a question that I'm not going to give you an answer to right now, but what I will encourage you to think about is sometimes there are ways that we can't currently see the harm, or the harm is kind of behind a veil of some sort. And what I would encourage you to think about is what is some of the things that are unseen, or what is the story and how that place has become all white? And in unpacking that story, can you find where harm might exist? It might mean that it's pervasive and that it's everywhere because that place has been really severely gentrified or colonized in some other way. So I would just encourage all of us to think about that as we think about where we're naming sites of harm, right? Your question is excellent, and I didn't do full justice in explaining it, but I hope that helps give us a tool and a way of thinking about that. So going back to this money wheel, you would identify, maybe you already just have marked 1 place. Some of you marked 7, some of you marked it everywhere. I would start by just noticing where you feel called to, right? Maybe it was the first thing you marked, maybe it was the last, but where is there connection? Pick one, start by picking one, and you would put that in the first wedge. Then in the second wedge, you would start thinking about, okay, well, this is already a challenge here. This is already a site of harm. Now I want to be able to figure out who else is addressing this, right? And this is a really important step because this is about basically gathering your people. This is about organizing and getting your team together and understanding that it takes a village, right? It takes a lot of people to be able to address and harm and come together in order to do so. In the third bucket, that's where you would think about, you know, what are the resources that I have, and what are the gaps that I can fill to help move money to the specific place and to address this particular harm. On the next page, what you would do is actually fill it out, right? You'd make your own money wheel where you can think about that movement. And then I won't get into this because we're running low on time, but I just want to say that this slide is a really important step for the how. And this is like the second, third, fourth conversation and beyond, where I'm asking everybody who goes through this to really think about what are the skill sets, what are the prerequisites I need in order to do this work, right? What's my practice of self-reflection and critical self-awareness? What values am I carrying? Am I embodying love, justice, and joy in this work? Am I coming with an asset-based lens, an authentic connection? And do I have an ongoing analysis of power and oppression? In the last 4 minutes, I just want to quickly close the loop and make a few more cases for place. So thank you for bearing with me, y'all. And this is where I just want to share, like, why are we doing this? You know, like, what's the point? And I think just a few things I want to say really quickly before closing is that place is really one of the first areas where we experience belonging as humans. And I think a major part of reparations and moving money with repair has to be about confronting the story of settler colonialism and racialized capitalism in this country that we need to break, in this country and also worldwide, right? I think part of our work in decolonizing or re-indigenizing has to take into account our relationship to a place. And I believe if we do that, we can accelerate how we belong with each other. I also think place offers a container for multidimensionality, right? If we start with place rather than just a specific sector like education, or environmental justice, right? Sometimes we get into a loop where we say, well, we have the most important issue, or we have the most important issue. Place allows us to have that container where we can really say, this is all a holistic approach and this is all important. And also just a way to shift from hyper specialization, which is also, no surprise, a tool of white supremacy. I think about AFCO, who you all should read. I can add that resource another time or follow up. I'll put her name in the chat so you all can look her up, but she talks a lot about undisciplinary thinking because the disciplines have been colonized. And then finally, I just think this work comes with such high reward because it's ultimately about how we're transforming ourselves and not just moving money is the goal. So with that, I'm ending 2 minutes to give you all some space as you enter into the next part of your summit. This has been such a pleasure. I'm so grateful for you all for listening and going on this mini healing journey with me. And I really hope you'll be in touch with your questions and excitement for this work moving forward. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely amazing. We have somebody who's already sharing that you're amazing in the chat. We're getting some thank yous. I wanted to thank everybody for joining us here today. This has been truly a great session. It was so great to pause, slow down, breathe, and reflect upon the places that we are all from and holding with us at every given moment in time. I just want to remind everybody, stick around for the poll that you will be seeing popping up on your screens. We'd love your feedback. It's super important for us. Join us for the next session at the top of the hour, Standing in Solidarity with LGBTQ plus Youth. Remember to engage on Whova. You can share resources. You can share how you're feeling. And don't forget to join us at 2 p.m. Eastern Time for our lovely poetry and cooking session with adobo fish sauce. I'll be there with my rice and beans and my spoon, and I hope to see you all there too. So with that, we're going to cue the music and let you all go. Thank you all for joining today.